Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Toshiba Kirabook, also known as the Kira 107. It is Toshiba's top of the line ultrabook. But with $1,700 it is definitely not the most affordable one. Is it still worth buying? Let's take a look at it now. Here on the top we can see it can be scratched up a little bit, so it is maybe not the most rugged one. The plastic itself here feels quite okay. It doesn't really bend, so that is okay, but it is still just plastic, so for the price I would expect a little bit more, same as on the bottom. It does flex a little bit more than the top does. The rest though is quite fine. We have the fan and the outtake, 4 nice rubber feet that protect it from sliding, and the stereo speakers, so that is actually done quite good. In terms of ports, we have the port for the charging, full-size HDMI, 2 USB 3.0, one with always on. On the front we have a cutout to open the device, and on the right hand side we have a full-size SD card slot, combined headphone jack, USB 3.0 once again. So let's open it up and see what we've got here. It can be opened with one hand, but with a little bit of effort, but that is absolutely fine. In terms of the keyboard, it is a really great keyboard. It is not the very best, but for a consumer laptop it is pretty much the best you can get. It has nicely dampened buttons. It feels very soft. The key travel is good enough, but due to the nicely dampened and quiet typing, as you can see here, it is a really good one as well. Also the layout is quite good. We have 2 levels of backlight, and we this time, compared to the Z32 I reviewed just recently, have dedicated media buttons, so you won't need the FN button all the time. That has been done good because you have brightness, you have volume, you have also the media button, so this has been done nice. Also the nice design keys, you can type with it really well. As for the trackpad, the only minor thing I would have to complain, maybe 2 things, is a little bit too much friction, but otherwise it is very precise, and 2-finger gestures work very well, but that's also the one smaller gripe I have, because we don't have the nice software we had on the Z32 that allows us to have 3-finger and 4-finger multi-gestures. The software just isn't there. Also, the scrolling needs a little bit too much fling for my experience. But in terms of ports, in terms of in design, in terms of keyboard, everything has been done really well. Let's check the display now. So we have a 2560 by 1440 display, 13.3 inches, so the resolution is definitely very sharp, but we also have, and that is maybe, if we try to see it visible here, we have this crystallized pattern. I think it is obvious, and due to this crystallized pattern I think some of the sharpness gets lost, at least in my opinion. Otherwise the maximum brightness, we do have it now, is quite good, but I've definitely seen brighter displays, but nothing I could really complain about. The white itself, and that is one thing I wanted to show off real quick, we have this nice software available here called Chroma Tune that allows us to have different modes. We have Technicolor, we have cold, we have warm, so you can adjust it to your liking. I prefer full. It is slightly colder, but it is definitely nice because that is what I prefer. So the white can be sorted out as you want it to. The blacks are quite deep, but not super deep. And as you can see here, the contrast isn't the really best one. A few things, not that they lose details, but they look just a little bit more flat. This is also especially noticeable on videos. The colors, they are definitely nicely saturated, pop a little bit, but also are quite accurate, so definitely nothing done bad here. The only thing that has to be shown off here are the viewing angles, and actually on the video itself they don't look as bad as they do in reality, because in reality I think the sweet spot, both vertical and horizontally, just isn't really up to my standards, what I would like to see, but it is okay. Sharpness though as well, we have 1440p, but due to the crystallized pattern I think it is not seeming as sharp as it should. That's it for the display. Let's take a look at the sound now, and let's get started. About the sound, front bottom facing. So definitely without the hard surface you will lose a lot of highs and sound will sound a lot of muffled, especially for me who likes to use his laptops in the bed or on the couch. This is a little bit of a burden also on the lap, but otherwise the maximum volume is good, not great, though it was in most cases enough. Of course, this always depends on the video or the sound quality you actually have, and that is also one thing, because if you tend to listen to a lot of YouTube like live hangouts that just don't have the best sound, you will get also quite a lot of distortion. Otherwise, not a lot bass. Mids are a bit weak, highs are clear enough for bottom facing, but overall it is good, not great, acceptable. It is fine and don't really have too much issues with, but for this price point I would just expect more, same as for the display. So let's check the performance here real quick. Just one thing for quick. If we go here, the SSD performance is absolutely great. As you can see, 420 reads and 470 writes, and with a boot time of less than 5 seconds, it is absolutely great. So that is good. As for the browsing performance, as you can see here in Internet Explorer, super smooth with the trackpad, with the touchpad, everything done absolutely nice. Same also goes for Chrome, which usually isn't actually that smooth. This is one of the smoother experiences I've seen with Chrome. Otherwise, photo editing, video editing, all that is no problem. Of course, rendering times aren't on a level of a desktop CPU, but for an i7 dual core with 256 gigabytes of RAM and 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I meant 256 storage, this device performs top of the line, but it is just an ultrabook without dedicated graphics, without anything special, and you get similar performance on other devices, but for a standard ultrabook this is pretty much as good as it gets. As for the battery life, 1 hour of charging gets you to 67%, and after 2.5 hours you are at 100%. As for the battery life, I got outcomes from slightly over 5 hours to slightly over 6 hours. So expect anything between that. I would see 5.5 to close to 6 as the average. That was with a brightness of 60% with normal to light tasks. So nothing really special, video watching, browsing, chatting, all that stuff. As for the heat, it doesn't get really that warm, but it is also not the last one. You have to remember one thing, don't block this here. Because if you block this, you could get a little bit of trouble, because then the fans will spin louder. And that is also one thing that brings me to the noise level. But I'm not starting with the fans, but another thing. Coil whine in normal use itself, if the device does nothing, is not really existent and practically not real. But one thing, and I won't be able to show it off, but if the content on the screen, and let's just try it. I think it was audible, and I hope my mic picked it up. As long as the content on the screen is moving, you have coil whine for some reason. That is a bummer, because if you scroll with the touchscreen, I heard it a lot of times. Okay, if you are in a normal environment in terms of sound, you won't really notice it and you won't distinguish it. And as long as any sound is coming from the device itself, if the fan starts spinning, you won't notice it. But still, that a device for $700 has something like that is quite disappointing. As for the fans, the device definitely isn't silent a lot. It is like silent maybe 50% of the time. Okay, I have to note once again, same as on the last recent review for the Toshiba, the temperatures here are much higher, so I get why the fans kick in more often. But compared to my personal laptop, it was spinning the fans when my laptop didn't. But therefore, the lowest RPM of 3000 is absolutely acceptable. Most of the times you don't even notice it that much. At least it's harder to distinguish. Once they kick in full at about 6000 RPMs, it is audible. But one thing, if you lift it up, you will hear this like a jet engine. But the moment you put it on a desk, it gets blocked quite nice, so you don't hear the fan definitely close to as loud as it is. And the sound is quite subtle, but it is loud. not super loud though. So it is, in terms of noise, a little bit of a hit and miss, because I don't like the coil when moving, and the fans are just on too often, even though not that loud. And in terms of software, there's nothing to mention outside of the Chroma Tune, and maybe a little bit too much apps installed from Toshiba's side, but the rest is 8.1 as it is, as we know it, as we like it. So let's get to the recap then. Design and build quality are really nice, but not what I expect from a device like this, because with 1.35 kilos, it is very lightweight, it is quite compact in my things, it is also quite thin, but nothing outstanding, especially not for the price. We have a good amount of ports, the keyboard is very good, trackpad is good, slightly more than good actually, but that's about it. The display is a bit disappointing, mostly because of the not that great viewing angles, and the crystallized pattern I just don't like, because the display isn't as sharp as it could be. Otherwise, the contrast ratio isn't the best, so I think the display is one of the more disappointing things here on this laptop. As for the audio, that one was acceptable, quite good, slightly above average, but also, once again, not what I would expect from such a high premium priced device. Performance though is top notch, nothing to complain here. Very fast, very zippy, very lightweight, and it did all the job it had to do very, very well. In terms of battery life, I think that's pretty much average today. Nothing out of the ordinary. I would expect at least to get solid 6 hours, but I also got a few times below 6 hours, so there's definitely a bit room for improvement, but it should be good enough for most of the times. Heat was okay, but therefore the noise not bad, but also definitely not great, and the software is pretty much okay. So would I recommend this device? Definitely not for this price. For $1,700, you make just too much sacrifices. You don't get the build quality you would expect from this price. You don't get a display you would expect. You don't get a sound you would expect. You get the performance you would expect. You don't get the battery you should get for this money, and the noise level is also too high. So as you can see, there is nothing outstanding. The two great things are its lightweight and compact design, but even that is not enough. Same as the performance, because you get the same performance on devices priced a lot lower. For $1,000 maybe yes, but for $1,700 definitely no. Sorry, no. Just too expensive for what you get. Okay, this was my review of the Toshiba Kirabook K107. Let me know what you think, and I know it sounded a little bit negative, but for this price, you have to expect a lot more. Okay, until next time, bye.